claimed to be the first human clone, we are told is supposed to arrive in the United States today. The announcement by Clonaid has reignited debate about the medical ethics of engineering human life. Some researchers say the technology could be used to help treat disease. Others say the procedure should be banned altogether. Zavos supports cloning with very strict limits. He joins us now from Lexington, Kentucky. And Alta Charo calls cloning irresponsible. She joins us from Madison, Wisconsin this morning. Welcome to both of you. Glad to have you with us.
Good morning, Paula. It's good to be with you.
Thank you. So, Dr. Zavos, I want to start with a point that you just made to a couple of our producers. You think it's impossible for this baby to be coming back to the United States simply because of passport processing issues. What do you mean?
That's correct, yes. We do some due diligence overnight, and we have established that there's no way that a U.S. passport can be issued for this baby. The minimum is 7 days. The maximum is 5 to 6 weeks. Now, from the medical point of view, we need to realize that a vaginal delivered baby should not be flying for 2 weeks, and a C-section baby should not be flying for 4 weeks. So those are kinds of problems that we have to deal with here, because it's impossible for this baby to be on a flight today. So
let me ask you this. Do you think this baby exists?
Well, on the basis of what I've seen so far, Paula, yeah, it's very difficult for me to believe that. And of course, you know, as we all know, there's been nothing to confirm the birth, a picture, a scientific documentation, a physical test of any sort. And therefore, you know, I think hearing from somebody that a baby is born, babies are born everywhere, but the key here is a clone baby born. That needs to be established.
Sir, are there any circumstances under which you support the idea of cloning a human being?
I do support the idea of human reproductive cloning and human therapeutic cloning for the purposes of realizing that this technology is powerful. From the reproductive point of view, it would give a few infertile couples the opportunity to have a child, a biological child of their own that they wish to have. And I think that we all need to understand that this is not going to be the way of reproductive process for the future for everyone. It's just for very few people that are limited in their abilities to have a child.
As you know, Doctor, a lot of Americans think that cloning a human being is ethically and morally wrong. Let's go to Alta Charo for her view of all this. You've heard what the doctor just had to say and the circumstances under which he thinks it would be okay to clone human life. What do you think?
I think it is an act of medical malpractice to do human reproductive cloning at this time, when animal data shows how very risky it is, how high the frequency is of miscarriage, stillbirth, birth defect, and even late-in-life problems with other species. When we've been unsuccessful at doing this in our closest animal relatives, the primates, there is no excuse for experimenting in the human species before we have adequately understood the problems and created safeguards through research with animals, especially when the conditions that you're suggesting you use it for are not conditions that are life-threatening, but conditions that have alternative methods of solution, whether it's adoption, IVF, artificial insemination, etc. There's simply no excuse for premature application in the human species.
Dr. Zavos, let's come back to the point Alta just made about the serious defect rate that we have seen in cloned animals, and that varies from 10 to 25%. While scientists think that might be acceptable in animals, what about in human children?
Paula, you need to understand here that the same voice or the same words have been used 24 years ago when Bob Edwards was attempting to create Louise Brown, the first test tube baby. And they said that monsters are going to be born and monsters are to be created by creating children in a petri dish. Then for Dr. Charo, I wanted to remind her that in her hometown today, there's a company by the name of Infigen that produces cattle via cloning with a repeatable success of 75%. This is repeating every day when they create and they produce a cattle in Madison, Wisconsin today in Infigen with 75% success. Now, we need to understand that the success rate of IVF after 24 years is only 30%. Only 30%. And therefore, I think that we all need to understand that no process out there, whether it's cloning, IVF, ICSI, IUI, inseminations, donor, oocyte donation, whatever the process might be, is 100% guaranteed,
all right,
because it isn't.
Let's give Altachero the final word on that today.
I think it's a false analogy to suggest that the situation with cloning is the same as the situation with IVF in the late 70s. Many people do believe IVF moved too quickly into human application or widespread application. But regardless of that, the fact is that the animal data was far more extensive, the experimentation far greater, and the safety record of IVF in the animal species was far greater than that of human cloning. Worse, with human cloning, there are actual biological reasons why one would expect to have the very problems that we've seen, whether it's cattle or mice or rabbits. In other words, we have biological reasons to look for birth defects, and sure enough, we're finding them. Under those circumstances, what is okay in the agricultural area is not okay for the human reproduction area.
You've both given us a lot to debate in our own homes and places of work. Paula Zavos and Altachero, thank you for both of your perspectives. And we wish you both a Happy New Year.
Thank you. Same to you.